4 or 5 cups of coffee a day. Coffee has, some benefits, as does alcohol, but it has a lot more, risk, in my opinion, and potential side effects, other than when used, in a moderate way.
Right. Speaking of moderation, maybe this is more of a reinforcement of what you talk about on the foods that you eat. I'm a professional athlete, and I'm very serious about my training and my diet, my exercise. And what I've noticed over a period of time, the foods that I've eliminated from my diet that it's been necessary to perform at my best, I didn't notice the change as I was eliminating them because it was a slow process, and I'd got rid of some of fried foods and things like that. But what I've really noticed is if I splurge or if I go back to one of those items now, how bad I feel and how much my body rejects those items. And I just can't believe that it was part of my regular diet at some point in my life.
Yeah, it's a great comment, Jim, because that's true. I mean, a lot of times people will notice, a week or two into it, I feel better, I feel clearer, my digestion feels better. That's true when people eliminate wheat and gluten. Not everybody, most people don't have celiac, and, most people don't even really have an allergy, but it's just the way it affects their digestion and their gut is a factor. Dairy products can be there. One of my books is called The False Fat Diet, which is all about food reactions and food elimination. I think that's true. I mean, that's often my first level of improved healthcare is, okay, what are you overdoing? What are potential risk factors for you in terms of certain foods? And let's get those out. Let's take at least a week or two and get those out of your diet, and then you're going to go back and try them again and see what your reaction, because once your body clears them, it's a much better slate. It's like wiping off, a blackboard or green board and having it empty, and then, you had a bunch of stuff written down there, you couldn't tell what was what. But once you cleared it off and you write things on, you're going to see that much more clearly.
Yeah.
And that's really common that people will notice when they try and bring that back in, what happens to them. And that's, really the best test for everyone to look at both food allergy and food reactions of all kinds. It's not always allergy per se. It's hypersensitivity, it's immune reaction, it's, biochemical stresses that happen when you eat certain things.
Yeah.
So that's why I always have people do cleanup, and that's one of the reasons I do detox programs regularly. I'll be doing an autumn detox, through my website, online on Zoom, and it's really good. I've been doing detox programs, with patients and whoever calls on me for that, because I write about it in my book. I do that like 2-3 times a year in groups of 20, 30 or more people, and we just kind of clean up everything together. We support one another. We email. Now I'm doing them on Zoom on the computer where everybody's present, and so I'll be doing a several-week autumn detox program probably after the show airs, and so people can check out my website, Elson Haas, MD, ELSON HAASMD.com, and find out more about that.
Yeah, well, I would highly recommend it because I know when I revisit some of those foods how bad they make me feel. So I know they shouldn't be present in my life.
If you're someone who's really looking at performance like you, the subtle, like a 5% difference is a big thing. Even if it's 5, but it's often more like 30 or 40% difference in terms of how you feel. Yeah. I mean, our bodies are very forgiving, so we can get away with a lot, and more so as we're younger. But the habits we learn in our teens and 20s are not necessarily in our best interest over time. That's really the idea of preventive medicine, is look at how are you living now and what effect is that going to have 20 or 30 years from now. That's real preventive medicine, not just, get your colonoscopy or your mammogram or your prostate check. I mean, we're looking for early problems, basically. But real prevention is how you live.
Yeah, interesting point. Well, that brings up another question I have for you, and I'm sorry because I'm going to bounce around a little bit here because you stimulated so many thoughts. What are your feelings on kids with iPhones and iPads and the amount of time that you see kids on those things these days? You briefly touched on electromagnetic waves a few minutes ago.
Yeah, it's another hook. It's another addiction that people have. It's hard. I'm guilty too. It's so incredible when we think where we were 30 years ago, because we're old enough for that, and what we had available to us. TVs, typewriters. et cetera. What we have now, it's just crazy, and that's how we evolved so quickly in terms of being able to reach anyone in the world, anyway. Like, I had my birthday yesterday, and my son was in the jungle of Peru, and reached, calling me, and we did Facebook Messenger, and then we did, Skype. We had so many ways that we could do it, and he was out in nowhere land, and I could see him. We didn't work well, but I could see him and talk to him at least briefly before we lost connection. But it's just amazing these days. What's going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, it's another thing. It's like caffeine and sugar. Alcohol is another way to get hooked in. And I think for parents, we need to be conscientious about our children's activities. It's like TV. I mean, in the past, TV was one of your better babysitters. Now it's your little phone. And I've had 1-year-olds that are just playing with an iPhone and just, getting into it. So it's, so we just have to find that balance. It's just like the same if you only ate chips as your diet, you're not going to, turn out that well. If you're, whatever you're doing, you have to look at how to find the balance with that.
I love how you said earlier you need to put your feet on the ground once in a while and feel the water. That makes so much sense. Right.
Yeah, that's a way it's called earthing, basically, because the earth helps absorb that electromagnetic that we pick up. I used to do a lot of courses for nurses in the past, and they were always working with rubber-soled shoes, which don't ground you as much, but they prevent, electricity from running through your body as easily. And they're surrounded by electronic stuff. So they were, a lot of times tension and stress, and menstrual cycles were off and all that. So I used to say, when you get home from work, you get, besides a bath, or shower, you get your feet on the grass, ideally grass, but it can be on dirt too. But it just stand there and just feel that connection. So, my message in my first book came out in 1981 called Staying Healthy with the Seasons. The message for me has always been, get back to nature, pay attention to the cycles of life, to your own cycle, to the seasons of the year and the effects they have, what foods are available, eat seasonally, eat fresh, eat locally, go to farmers markets, grow your own food. I mean, that's been my message in healthcare for, the last 45 years. Right. And, I was one of the docs who just stuck my head out there and said, okay, there's got to be more. And so as I started studying during the 70s, herbs and natural healing and Chinese medicine and mind-body, I said, this is all very important stuff. This should be part of healthcare.
Yeah.
And so my folks didn't understand after they helped me get through med school, well, what the heck are you doing, Elson? I wasn't making any money. I was living in the community and being a doctor and not, and trading for, eggs and paintings and pottery and stuff. I said, well, I think I'm going to write a book about this, So that was my first book, and it's still in print 37 years later, and a popular book for people opening up to the idea of how to, pay attention to nature and life and eat healthfully and, adapt yourself a little bit as you go through the cycles over the year,
Yeah.
And that to me is still an important message, and I've had, a lot of integrative docs and other people say that's really the most important message we have about nutrition is eat locally, seasonally, and and simply.
Interesting. So, well, again, certainly I feel that there's so much more value to your practice than what most of us are getting. I've got 2 more questions. I'll combine them for the interest of time. Most of my listeners are in Southern California here, and we're dealing with these fires and just air pollution in general. And I picked up on your website something about air pollution. And as we head into fall, what are your tips on heading into fall with the air pollution and our health and everything that we should be concerned about in the next few months?
Well, this is summer. Northern California is just as bad these days.
Yeah,
too.
sure.
People coming in, even yesterday in my practice, I had people like, they're really stressed in the respiratory tract. Number one, I think everyone should have some kind of air filter at home. I just have a new IntelliPure, which is a great system, a little bit more expensive, a little more advanced than some of the simpler ones. But I really encourage people to have that at home. especially if you live in Southern California or any place where there's fires, or, you're all at risk of some kind of air pollution locally, if a chemical plant, gets on fire or whatever. So I think having clean air at home is a good start. And then also having a mask, if you're sensitive, particularly when you go outside or when you travel around, some kind of a good quality mask. I have one of my articles on my website is called Preparation and Survival. So it talks about, being prepared for problems, in your car, at home, and work even. Some of us are at work. What if there's an earthquake and we get stuck, we can't get out of work for a day or two? Mm-hmm. Is there supplies at your office, is there supplies in your car if you're out somewhere? So that's been my motto. That's how I travel around. I have extra water. I have, a few food snacks. I have, blanket in my car. I have, basically things. So you can go on. There's websites that you can go on preparation and survival that are that give you kind of a list and ideas, flashlight, batteries, etc. So, but I think we need to protect ourselves from, part of staying healthy is protecting ourselves from whatever is going on in the environment, and protecting ourselves from the heat and the cold and the rain, all that. That's one of the primary basic messages of traditional Chinese medicine. We protect ourselves from the external harms, or devils they call them. The external are the extreme climates: cold, damp, heat, wind, etc. Mm-hmm. And the internal harms, which are our emotions. Anger, fear, worry, sorrow, those, different emotions that when we dwell on them, it throws our body out of balance. And when we're exposed to too much wind, it affects the liver and gallbladder in the springtime, for example. People get more allergy symptoms, So that's all tied in. Traditional Chinese medicine is a beautiful system as well. And that's really one of the keys I've had in my career is integrating, since I studied Western medicine and then I learned about Eastern medicine and then natural medicine, incorporating those, because that enhances the way to assess people and the way to treat people to help improve health, is really using the strengths. And one of the things in my Staying Healthy with New Medicine book is what are the strengths and weaknesses of all three of those systems, because they work better when they're incorporated together rather than just only one system. And that's part of the uniqueness of my writing and my clinic, is that we incorporate all those more subtle aspects with Western approaches.
Yeah. Well, Doctor, as I mentioned, I could probably talk to you all day about each one of these topics, and we certainly appreciate your overview of several of them, including your 5 principles. You mentioned your website before, but if people want to get in touch with you, is that the best place to go, is your website, and reach out to you?
Yes, that's fine. And I have two websites. One is my ElsonHaasMD.com, and the other is Preventive Medical Center of Marin.com, or PMCMarin.com. And those are that. And you can email me through the websites. It's true. And I'm happy to hear from your listeners and see anybody who wants to come up and go from there. One thing is just look at what your motto in life is. I mean, I don't know if we're finishing up here, but my personal motto is keep love in my heart as much of the day as I can. Say yes whenever I can, but be able to say no. So, and a lot of times when I'm, need to, I always have to work to keep my diet, my diet and my weight in control. So there's periods of time where I just say no to certain things.
Yeah.
And I say yes, yes to other things. So right now I'm eating, protein, lots of veggies. I'm saying no to treats and carbs and sugars and all that, So and what does that do for you? What do you need to say yes to? So I would encourage your listeners to look at their lives honestly. Maybe look at 3 things that you can do to improve your overall health and well-being, and give that a try. Whether it's a certain elimination, whether it's bringing in exercise, whether it's working on improving your sleep or managing your stress, or just working on your mind to what we have. I encourage people to have positive self-talk, I call it, rather than, negative, things like, oh, I never can do that because of that. And some of that negative self-talk comes from our heritage, our parents, and the way they think about things. Whether it's how they think about money or work or the world. Oh, yeah, you got to watch out for everybody. They're out to get you, or, the world can be a beautiful place. Go out, go off and prosper, So, we got to look at ourselves honestly and make the changes that we can do to, optimize our well-being. And that's really my goal personally and as well as in practice,